Welcome to the Shir on Memhei Amud Bet. The Shir during the winter months will take place at 7 p.m. on Mondays, barring unforeseen circumstances, and it will start shifting around again as soon as we get to the point of the Mincha Marav, once again, intruding or overlapping with that time. Okay, so let's begin our Shir tonight. In order to understand what's going on in Memhei Amud Bet, even if you missed last time, fear not. You're not missing too much because we're opening a new sugya now. We had seen a Mishnah on Daf Memhei Amud Aleph, and that Mishnah was about Hoshana Rabbah. We started learning it in my Sukka. It was not so warm, but we created some warmth through our learning and energy through our learning, except for the people who were on Zoom, who were just enjoying themselves at home, while the rest of us were, trying to stay warm. We learned through to Memhei Amud Bet, and we're up to now a portion of the Mishnah. It seems to be telling us about the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, returned to Memhei Amud Aleph, tells us that there were branches of the Dekel, branches of the date palm, that they would bring to the Beit HaMikdash, to the Mizbeach, and they would place them in the ground on the sides of the Mizbeach. That is, if you're on Memhei Amud Aleph, that's what we're going to just see that in the Mishnah. The truth is, the Mishnah starts quoting it from Kimaseu b'chol, kach maseu b'Shabbat, as they would do during the week, so they would do on Shabbat. Eloshe malaktin otan me'erev umanichan otan begigiot shel zahav kidei shelo yikmoshu. They would put them in golden vases of some sort, or pails, some kind of vessel, so that they would not wilt. And then we have the part that we're going to focus on tonight. Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka Omer, Chariyot Shel Dekel Hamivin v'Chovtin Otan Bekarka B'Tzidei Hamizbeach. What I just described, these branches of the date palm, and they would take those and place them on the side of Oto Hayom. And that particular day, presumably meaning Hoshana Rabbah, also there'll be a discussion shortly. Nikra Chavot Chariyot, the placement of the Chariyot being those branches. That's all we're going to see tonight. So we'll from the Mishnah. So is what we're seeing in the Gemara. So we'll stop there, just for consideration. Chariyot, according to Rashi, are anafim, they're branches. Okay, gives us a little bit of an idea of what it might be. And our Gemara on Memhei Amud Bet will be focused on trying to understand the nature of what Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka is driving at. What is he trying to tell us? Is he explicating something additional to what was in the beginning of the Mishnah, of the Reisha of the Mishnah, which was, of course, about the Arava and Aravot? Or is it in a conflict with the beginning of the Mishnah, telling us we do something actually totally different than what the Tanakama thinks we're supposed to be doing? So if you look with me, page Memhei Amud Bet, we're at the two words are Kimaseu b'chol, which the Gemara doesn't really go into too far, but it gives us a little bit of the goes right into the Gemara about Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. So again, if you're looking in the Vilna Shas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines up or so in the narrow lines from the bottom of the narrow lines. Kimaseu b'chol, says the Gemara. We're going to have the approach of Rav Huna and then of Rabbi Levi. Amar Rav Huna, my time at the Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, dichtiv kapot. It says in the Torah kapot. Kapot is in the plural. Therefore, kapot tmarim in the pasuk, the well-known pasuk that we've quoted together many times, right, from Parshat Emor, right? L'kach t'machem be'yom harishon pri eitz hadar, kapot tmarim v'anaf eitz avot ba'avi nachal u'smachtem, etc. So that is kapot. So that's two. Achat lalulav ve'achat lamizbeach. So in other words, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, in the understanding of Rav Huna, when we have a mitzvah in the Torah about the Lulav, it's two mitzvahs of Lulav. One mitzvah of Lulav, it's what's going to be called the mitzvah of Lulav. The other one, its name changes. It's called Chariyot, which some describe as maybe more dried out. And as opposed to the Lulav, which is, we know, one stalk, the Chariyot might have been the opened palm branches, the ones we always see, tall, spread out, right? And then it's all as one piece. So that would sort of be like the big Aravot that are 11 Amud Hais. They brought that in as well. But essentially the same substance. And according to Rav Huna's understanding of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, that's what it means in the Torah, kapot. V'Rabbanan Amri, what are Rabbanan? The first opinion here in the possibly the first opinion of the Mishnah. But what do Rabbanan say about the word kapot? They say no, kapat ktiv. When you look in the Torah, it's chaser, and it's missing a vav, and therefore, even though it's pronounced in the plural form, it is written in the singular form, kapat tamarim, and therefore that's just one. There's one mitzvah lulav, and that's what we have. By the by, this is the ongoing machloken and shas of yesh aim la mikra, yesh aim la masoret. When we have a split between what we say versus what we see, which one takes priority? It's not really resolved in shas. You have this idea. So yesh aim la mikra, the mikra, whatever you read, that's the mothership, so to speak. As opposed to yesh aim la masoret, we have a masoret. That's how you write the word. That's what matters more. And perhaps that's the chiluk between these two. Rabbi Levi says that is not the argument between Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka and the Chachamim on the word kapot, but rather it's really that Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka has an understanding of the word tamar, ki tamar. Ma tamar ze ein lo ela leiv echad, as the date only has one heart, meaning that the tree has apparently one line of sap. So too with the Jewish people. So too we have Af Yisrael ein lahem ela leiv echad lavim shb'shamayim. We have a singular attachment to the Ribono Shel Olam, and that's what we go with. Therefore, we have a specific a mitzvah that, in addition to the mitzvah of taking the lulav, we have an additional idea. We want to show something demonstrative about our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we bring these long branches and we put it up against the mizbeach. Now, Rav Huna's opinion really made the Chariyot Shel Dekel, these branches, into a mitzvah element, didn't it? We're learning the words of the Torah. Kapot, we pronounce it in the plural. Therefore, there must be two separate mitzvahs involving the lulav, but not so for Rabbi Levi. To Rabbi Levi, it's not that the Rabbanan disagree with Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. They're sort of saying, oh, it's a nice drush. It's a nice idea. It's like a nice minhag. You're just going to do it. Understand? In Rabbi Levi's understanding, it's a much simpler sort of understanding of what's going on. It's a minhag, right? Because you could have just as easily said, well, if the Tamar has leiv echad, so too we, the Jewish people, are leiv echad lavinu shb'shamayim. So great, so you're carrying a lulav. We need a separate thing. No, so we're trying to show we're gonna, right, and therefore the seventh day is more special. Maybe, but a Hiddur mitzvah could be in the lulav itself. Didn't have to be extra branches, but maybe.
Masorah versus mikra, so would Masorah be more
Masoret, meaning what's written. The Masoretic text, you call it in the academic circles, lahavdol fe'avdol. Masoretic text, the Masor, what is written in, what do we have in our Sefer Torah? Maybe that's more authoritative than what we read, because the nikudot, after all, the vowelization, that's a Masorah. It's a tradition that we have a transmission, but it's not written. I mean, it's written in the Chumash. But
you said the 7th day, that's what's trying to run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, so we talked about that before. Look with me at Rashi. Rashi Levi Omer. Rashi Omer. Rashi says Rabbi Levi Omer Kitamar. Talmud Rabbi Yochanan Broka Lav Mikra Nafik Ela Svara Shehu Simanya Fel Kilusan Shel Yisrael. It's a svara. It's he had an idea, and what is it? It's a nice sign that praises the Jewish people. Right, and on the holiday of Sukkot, we're praising the Jewish people. Zman Simchatenu, right? Just being, and we're praising the Mizbeach we saw last time with all the issues over there. Talked about different aspects of nature that are being raised up and waved, and right. So okay, Ein lo ela leiv echad, Rashi ke'ein moach yeshbo kegon be'etz ha'egoz v'agefen ve'ein lo ela be'etz ha'emtzai hazakuf ve'oleh ve'gadel lemala. Essentially, it's in the mid, since it has one trunk, it comes and goes. There's apparently some kind of marrow, whatever it is, that's single, as opposed to other species that have multiple. Okay, and that it does not exist apparently in the Chariyot, even in the branches. It doesn't even branch out. It's the median line, so it's one heart. So it's a drasha. It's a drasha. If you look at Tosfot here, Achat Lulav ve'Achat LaMizbeach, the Balei Tosfot say the following: I mean, on the middle of page Memhe Amud Bet, Tosot, Echad Lulav ve'Achat Lamizbeach. So, Tosot say, Lo yitachin klal faresh, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka lo palig ela b'shvi. You cannot really claim that when we're talking about the Chariyot Shel Dekel, you could have asked the question, when did Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka speak? Did he speak just about Hoshana Rabbah? Or was he saying is what you should do every day? Let me dial back for a minute. When we spoke previously about the mitzvah of Arava, it was not in the Mikdash a mitzvah of one day of all of Sukkot. It was every day of Sukkot. On the seventh day, they went around 7 times, but every day they went around 1 time, and they put either they held it and went around, according to some, according to others, they put it up against the Mizbech. Yeah, everybody remembers this. And then the levels and the and the going in, yeah. So that was every day. The Kohanim did it right, and there's a question: did they let a Zar, did they let a Kohen Balmum, couldn't do that voter? We talked about all this, yeah. So the question comes up like this: okay, and remember that the 7th day is called Yom Arava. Why? Because it's the only day that if it falls out on Shabbos would supersede Shabbos. If any other day of Sukkot was Shabbat, they didn't do the thing with the Arava. It was only on Hoshana Rabbah. That was. So then we had that whole discussion. Why only Hoshana Rabbah? Why not make it the first day? No, because you already have Lulav on the first day as shining more so because it's everywhere. So we wanted to show another day of Sukkot that's unique to it. Why don't you choose a middle day, a second day, the 5th day? So it said, so we did one in the beginning, we did one in the end, we had a whole discussion. But the question is, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says his piece, is he commenting on the whole Mishnah, on the whole mitzvah? Or is he saying this is what we do only on the 7th day? So Tosfot open up and say, it is impossible. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says, yes, in 6 days, for 6 days, I agree that you're going to use the Arava, but on the 7th day, that's when you have to use the Lulav. It can't be. And he's going to explain why. Okay? He's going to explain that rather, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, in the reading of Rav Huna, remember we saw Rav Huna and we saw Rabbi Levi. In Rav Huna's reading, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka disagrees with the Chachamim about every single day. And according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, there's no mitzvah of Arava, period. There's only a mitzvah of Lulav in the Lulav bundle and a mitzvah of Lulav, the Chariyot Shel Dekel. They're called that, presumably because they're much larger and they're branches. And they have multiple Lulavim, so to speak, sticking out of them. Of course, they're open. You take your Lulav and you open it up. We had that whole discussion that it would make the Lulav into a broomsticks. Huh? No, because it's already open. It's got to be closed up. I don't see they tie it up, right? So look at Tosfot again. Achat lulav v'achat lamizbech. Lo yitachin klal. Say by Tosfot lefaresh. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka lo palig ela b'shvi. Ela, but rather akul hunami palig. Rather he argues on the whole thing. The savar chariyot shel dekel hayim kol shiva v'lo arava. He thinks it was only the chariyot shel dekel and there was never an arava. Now, we're in the world of Rav Huna. Forget Rabbi Levi now with his drushes, beautiful. But in Rav Huna, what had Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka done to claim that what he wanted to argue is a mitzvah of Chariyot Shel Dekel is sourced in the Torah? He read a word of the Torah, right? So now, say the Bali Tosfot, I'll show you how that must be the case, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka holds across the board. It must be Lulav and Chariyot, and not Lulav and Arava. Ki hechi de Abba Shol. Remember Abba Shol? The Darish Arvei. Remember Arvei Nachal is in the plural. Achat Lamikdash. It was Achat for the Lulav and Achat Lamikdash. Remember? Arvei is plural. So normally you and I would say, well, it's Arvei is plural to tell you as many hold. The Rambam didn't hold that way, but many hold 2 Aravot in the bundle. Minimum of plural 2. Yeah? But Abba Shol, he wanted to argue, no, it's plural to tell you one stem goes in the lulav, the other stem is for the mizbeach, for the mikdash, and that's what he thought. Now, v'chein rabbanan, the nafkalahu mihalacha, the hainu kol shiva, the rabbanan, they learned it from halacha. Halacha l'moshe misinai, it means to say. Remember, they disagreed with Abba Shol. They said no, it is not correct that the word arvei is meant to tell us about the mitzvah of Arava, separate from the Arava that goes in the Lulav. Rather, Arvei is whatever it is. It's in the plural for other reasons. Why do we have the mitzvah of Arava? It's Allah Moshe Sinai. And that was why they were fighting tooth and nail with the Tzdukim, because the Tzdukim didn't believe in Allah Moshe Sinai. So there was always a back and forth. on that score, right? So and therefore, how did the Chachamim know that there was a mitzvah of a Rava all 7 days? Halacha Moshe Sinai for 7 days. That's all. So we get to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. He explains. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka darish lahu arvei kishar tanoi the Lulav hagazel. When it came time to darshan the word arvei, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka was on the same side of the aisle as the rest of the Chachamim, not with Abba Shol. He thinks arvei means that you could have even aravot that are not from the side of a nachal, but aravot that are from other places. A weeping willow tree, I don't know, whatever. Something that's not actually on the bank of water, because arvei nachal means the willows, or the reeds that grow right next to the water source, because they're associated with a lot of water. So, v'halacha leitle. But you see that Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, he simply does not have the concept of halacha l'Moshe Sinai about a Rava. He doesn't agree. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka does not agree with Abba Shol that arvei is to teach you about a mitzvah of a Rava. He doesn't hold like the Rabbanan that there's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, but not because he's at Tzduki chas v'shalom, but because of this, he thinks the word kapot is to teach you that there's 2 mitzvahs of Lulav. It's interesting, yeah? It's like a different, we would have thought otherwise that's a split in two directions. Rabbanan over here, Abba Shol over there. Everybody marches in lockstep with Rabbanan if they're not with Abba Shol. But it turns out it's really Rabbanan hold halacha Moshe Sinai, and Abba Shol does not hold halacha Moshe Sinai. He holds it sourced in the Torah. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says it is not halacha Moshe Sinai, and it is not sourced in the Torah. There's nothing with the Arava, period. So, v'ha dekatane matnita v'oto hayom, lav davka yom echad. When it says in the Mishnah v'oto hayom, if you turn back to 45a, it had an expression v'oto hayom. Look in the Mishnah, we had the line Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka omer Chariyot shodekel mivin v'choftin otan b'karka b'tzida mizbeach. Right? They would bring the Chariyot shel Dekel and they would place them in the ground on the sides of the mizbeach. And then the Rabbi Yochanan Broka seems to be saying, V'oto hayom nikra chavot chariyot. And that day was called the day of the leaning of the chariyot. What do you mean, oto hayom? Doesn't that sound like it's talking about specifically one special day? Like Hoshana Rabbah, Tos would say, no, it's lav davka. It's lav davka. So the Rashash and the Rabbi Yaakov Emden, I saw in one of the anthologies I like to read, that said, wait, okay, so then why did the Mishnah say Oto Hayom? Oto Hayom means on that very day, on that specific day. So why are you using that? So they both answer that the Chariyot were brought daily to the Mikdash, but they're only actually placed on the 7th day, leaning on the Mizbeach. In other words, remember we saw before, there was a question, what did they do with the massive Aravot? Did they take them around and then lean them? Did they just lean them? Machloket. Rishonim are debating it still. The idea of Rabbi Yochanan Broka is every single day they brought them, presumably they made a circuit. On the 7th day, after they made the circuit, they would also place them leaning. These Chariyot shel Dekel, not Lulav. You understand? So Oto Hayom is because these Achronim, the Rashash, the Yavitz, that's Rabbi Yaakov Emden, have to answer, this doesn't make any sense. What do you mean Oto Hayom? Of course, Oto Hayom is something special about Hoshana Rabbah. And Bali Tosfot is saying was lav davka. The lav davka was, don't think it means, and that's the only day they brought these Chariyot shel Dekel. According to Rabbi Yochanan Broka, they brought it every single day. It's only they leaned it on that one day.
But Yochanan Broka is still saying whatever they brought was a lulav, not a. Nachon. Okay. So
Tosfot's point is, don't think that Rabbi Yochanan Broka is only trying to make this point about one day of Sukkot. He's making his point about every day of Sukkot. He thinks there's never a mitzvah of Rava separate from what goes in the Lulav. Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm coming.
Yeah.
My more simple mind.
That's all good.
To say he's holding there's no mitzvah of Rava.
Right. Ever.
This thing's talking about ever.
Right.
Whether it's 1 day, 7 days, 100 days, it's
Yeah.
still talking about Lulav.
Yeah.
And the Rabbanim, they have a Moshe Sinai.
A Rava is every day.
They said right. They say it's every day.
And there's no such thing as the Chariyot shel Dekel.
Right. And the who's the other one?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Rav Huna sees understands Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka as really having a sharp disagreement with the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan speak first, They're the majority, but we put the dissenting view of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka in there. He's outnumbered, obviously, but the point is they have very substantive disagreement about how do you read psukim. But remember, Rav Huna was one understanding of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. The second one was Rabbi Levi, and for him things are much softer. You look in Tosfot, Umihu the Rabbi Levi the Mefarish time of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka ketamar lo mikra darish. Yeah, I don't know what was going on back there. Okay, no, that's okay. Yeah, fine. Umihu Rabbi Levi the Mefarish time of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka ketamar v'lo mikra darish ela svara shisim and yaflik lushan kilusan shel Yisrael. Rabbi Levi, who thinks that what Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka is really doing is just showing us a nice thing that you should bring these Chariyot Shel Dekel, it's a svara, etc. He thinks, Rabbi Levi thinks, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka is not actually disagreeing with the Chachamim. Is there or isn't there a mitzvah Rava? He agrees with the mitzvah Rava. But one day, Oto Hayom, the day of Hoshana Rabbah, it's nice. The end of Yontif, bring the beautiful big palm branches too, and put them up against it. She'ein lahem ela levi chad lavim sheshamayim. Right? The word E is not supposed to be there. According to the Maharam and others, so Avshad Laheve Ela Yom Echad. It could just be it was only one day. Ben Yom Echad, Ben Kol Shiva, Lohaita Arava Betela. Whether it's one day or 7 days that they would be bringing the Chariyot Shel Dekel, that's not instead of Arava, according to Rabbi Levi. Right? V'tervayu hayu Maraviot Shel Arava, V'Chariyot Shel Dekel. So what do they have? Both bundles of the Aravas. And remember, because we said it's Moraviot Shel Arava. So they had one Arava and they put it on, they decorated the whole thing with the Aravot. So they had Aravot, and they also had Chariyot Shel Dekel, and they were all around the Mizbeach. Very beautiful. The last day, especially, it was like extra, you know? And according to that rendering, it kind of, I don't know, I'm exposing a personal bias over here. It's very hard for me to understand how it could be. I get that there could be a machloket. Abba Shol says you get darshan from the word arve, there's mitzvah rava, and the Chacham says halach Moshe Sinai. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka actually could hold there's no halach Moshe Sinai, and he darshans a whole different pasuk. It's very hard for me to understand, as opposed to Rabbi Levi's view, which says no, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka wasn't saying there's no such thing. Of course, there's such thing as a rava. The Mishnah says several times. I mean, you could argue against me, yeah, but the Mishnah was written by Rebbe, so you know. But okay, but right, according to Rabbi Levi, of course the mitzvah of rava every day, but one of those days, Oto Hayom, special day Hoshana Rabbah, everybody showed up with these massive extra wreaths with which to decorate the Mizbeach, and that was with the Chariyot Shel Dekel. So it's a nice thing. Yeah. Okay. Ad kan sugya aleph. Not too bad. Oh, Larry, question, comment. Go ahead. Just unmute yourself and speak loud, please. We can all hear
you. I don't understand how there could be a machloka about halacha Moshe Sinai. You're saying Rabbi Levi, but what? You got my point.
Yeah, agreed. But there were machlokim about whether things are halacha Moshe Sinai or not on certain things. The concept of halacha Moshe Sinai was not up for grabs. But you're right. Sometimes there was. Look, Abba Shel thought that the word arava was arve rather was to darshan that there is a mitzvah midoraita of arava. Just like there's a mitzvah of arava midoraita, and then
one has a source, the other says it just.
Yeah, okay, but halacha Moshe Sinai has a different implication, oftentimes in terms of its how things play out. It's not exactly deoraita necessarily.
Yeah, but it's a tradition that has been passed down for generations, and here, supposedly we have a machloket tanai. Yeah. I don't. Okay.
I told you my bias already. I like Rabbi Levi better because it's a much softer machloket than arguing about whether or not there's a halacha Moshe Sinai. I quite agree. If you hold your finger on page 44, 5b, we'll do a flashback. I hadn't planned this, but since we're on the subject, go back to 5b. And you might recall that on 5b, we had a discussion about how to figure out the height of the sukkah, the minimum height of the sukkah, right? And it was trying to figure out 5b. You're with me in Masachet Sukkah, 5b. Yeah. So we're talking there about the height of the kaporet and the aron, and then the height of the sukkah, 10 tefachim, the whole discussion, and all sorts of drushas, and then this one doesn't hold of how long is an amma and this and that, and then in the midst of it, we have here El Rabbi Yehuda Hilchta Gemiri La. Damar B'Chir Bar Ashi Amarav Shiur Chatzitzin Mechitzin Alach Moshe Misinai. So right then and there, in the midst of that discussion, it says, Rabbi Yehuda, he thought there was a halacha here. Hilchta Gemiri La basically means it's halacha Moshe Misinai. So then it says, as Rabbi Chia taught in the Rav, any shear, anything to do with chatzitz and anything to do with mechitza, right? Mechitzin, the hilchot of mechitza, they're all halacha Moshe Misinai. And then the Gemara went on to do what? To darshan had the pasuk eretz chita useora gefen teinav rimon etc. is actually somehow a hint to the halacha Moshe Misinai. You just told me it's halacha Moshe Misinai, which implies it's not listed anywhere in the Torah. Yeah. So then the Gemara got into a whole discussion: when is it and when isn't it, and what degree, and right, and could there be a hint or not? Right? It's the Gemara finally said on 6a ela hilchataninu ukras machta ba'almahu. Like it's really halacha Moshe Misinai. The pasuk is just there as a hint to shore it up, which is again a big discussion. Like if it's actually halacha Moshe Misinai, so then I thought that's not supposed to have a hint. That has a little hint. Now, so you could go back to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Maybe he holds that RYBB is halacha Moshe Misinai. Maybe Tosfot didn't say that. They said he doesn't have the halacha Moshe Misinai. But maybe we could say, I don't know who am I to argue with Tosfot. I don't know, but maybe he thinks halacha Moshe Misinai. But there's also a hint in the word RYBB. The Chachamim. That Abba Shel thought it was all the word RYBB, and that he says, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says, the word kapot is one for the Lulav, one for the Mikdash. It's hard for me to understand the explanation of Rav Huna for Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. It's hard for me to understand because he dashed another word. So you would have to hold that there's two mitzvahs of Lulav, and the other one's also Deoraita, and he's a solitary individual with this drasha. It seems strange. I don't know. Next sugya up at bat. Yeah, we'll keep going in the Gemara 45b. Next, the Gemara says as follows, and this is going to open us into a sugya that we will not finish tonight. We'll start it. We're going to come to a nice place to set down anchor because it's going to have some important practical implications having to do with brachos on mitzvahs. So I am now 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up in the narrow lines. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Lulav Shiva v'Sukka Yom Echad. Yeah, the Lulav is for 7 days, and the Sukkah is for 1 day. Now, what does he mean by that? He actually means the bracha that's going to be recited on it. Okay, Sukkah Shiva, Rashi, Sukkah Shiva, the bracha. V'Lulav Yom Echad, Rashi, Lulav Yom Echad. It's a second line up in the narrow lines of Rashi. V'Lulav Yom Echad, v'Afa Pishin Nital Kol Shiva Zech LaMikdash Ein Mavarchin Bo Ela Yom Rishon Shu Min HaTorah. According to Shmuel, it's Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, you'll make the bracha on the lulav all 7. Oh, I'm sorry, I quoted this is wrong. Sorry, wrong Rashi. I said Rashi too quickly. Sorry. First opinion is Shmuel's opinion. You make the bracha on the sukkah once at the beginning of Yom Tov. It lasts for 7 days. Just like we don't paskin like that, but at least it's a day. You have to understand it. And the lulav. All 7 days, and he explains why. My timer, lulav de mafseke leilot miyamim. Kol yoma mitzvah be'apei nafshehu. Since there are nights, and the mitzvah of lulav is only during the day, ulekachtem lachem bayom harishon, and not in the nighttime. That's why there's a whole deal, and you can't take the lulav at night. If it's still before Mishiach or before Alot Shachar. Actually, there's a big discussion. We could take it. A lot of people wait for the time of Hanetz, even if they can't. So he says, okay, that's a hefsek. But sukkah, the lomafseke leilot miyamim kulu shiva kachad yom harichad damu. It's like one long period of time. I'm engaged in a process. I made the bracha at the beginning. Take me away. I got 7 days. It doesn't stop in the middle. There's no interruption. There's a logic to it. Yeah, we don't do that, but just to think about it. Okay, now Rabbi Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So the second opinion is Rabbi Bar Chana's understanding of Rabbi Yochanan. It's going to be someone else trying to understand Rabbi Yochanan next. What does it say? Sukkah Shiva v'Lulav Yom Echad. Sukkah 7 days, Lulav 1 day. My timer, Sukkah deoraita Shiva. This mitzvah of Sukkah is 7 days in the Torah, explicitly for everybody. Lulav derabanan sagile b'chad yoma. But since Lulav is only derabanan, the rest of the days of Sukkot, only the first days of deoraita, right? So that 1 day is good enough. And now you read that Rashi that I read erroneously too early. Even though we're taking it 7 days in memory of the Mikdash, since it was only an enactment to Rabbanan, second opinion, which Rabbi Bar Bar Chana explaining Rabbi Yochanan, you make a bracha one time. After that, it's a mitzvah to Rabbanan. By the way, according to the sheet of Rabbi Yochanan, you don't make a bracha when you light Shabbos candles. Seems, because it's a mitzvah to Rabbanan. And you can start piling up other mitzvah to Rabbanan. It sounds like he's saying you don't make a bracha on it. Strange, but maybe that's where he's going with it. It's not clear. Not clear.
The same by matzah?
Matzah d'oraita, but maror would be a good example.
Tomorrow.
I don't remember.
So he wouldn't.
Don't make a bracha maror. Yeah.
He wouldn't make a bracha on Hanukkah candles.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned Hanukkah candles. We will not get the Hanukkah candles tonight, but we will get there next year. Next year, it's going to be about Hanukkah candles. It's going to be on Mem Vav Manaf. It's one of the arguments that's marshaled as a part of the discussion.
You'll shed light on it.
Considering, I will try to. Yeah, that's very cute. We will open the first Hanukkah shir. Will be next week. People will say you already have Divrei Torah for Hanukkah. I mean, halachic Divrei Torah, but
there's the matzah is to write to the first day. First day.
Well, everything. No, yeah.
You
Okay.
don't make that special bracha on matzah for all 7 days.
Right. Oh, it's only the first day.
It's only the first day. That's
Yeah,
what
but the
I'm saying.
Torah says it's only a 1 day mitzvah.
Doesn't it say you should eat all 7 days?
It's not considered a mitzvah. It's considered a dvar reshut. There's a drush that says you eat it for 6 days, and it says you eat it for the first day. So you say the first day is a mitzvah, the other day is a dvar reshut.
And the Torah in Parashat Shemot, it says 7 days.
Yeah, and the
It's only by own.
that's true, but you have 7. It does make mention in one place 6 days you should eat matzah.
Right.
There's the 7 days you should eat matzah. There's the 1 day you should eat matzah. So the drush that the Chazal have is it's only a mitzvah chiyuvit, an obligatory mitzvah on the first night. Rather not the first day, it's on the first night at the Seder. Yeah. But the point is, in this the first interpretation, Sukkah 1 day for the whole 7 day, one time for the whole 7 days, Lulav every day because it's interrupted. Continuity versus staccato. Rabba Bar Bar Chanan, Sukkah every day, the 7 days. Why? Because it's a mitzvah d'oraita. So every day make another bracha. And Lulav, one time. Why? Because it's only d'oraita the first day. That's what he holds. Third approach, Ki ata Ravin, when Ravin came to Bavel, he reported, I'm Rabbi Yochanan said, it's so, echad zeh be'echad zeh shiva. All 7 days you make a bracha on Lulav, all 7 days you make a bracha on Sukkah. That one sounds familiar, no?
Yeah.
Make a bracha 7 days? Yeah. Amar Rav Yosef, nakot de Rabba Bar Bar Chana biyadecha, de kul marai kamoi kavate besukkah. Rabbi Yosef declares the end of the discussion, take what Rabba Bar Bar Chana said in your hand, because all the Marayim before him, they all follow him when it comes to Sukkah. So Rav Yosef, this is not the end of the discussion, Rav Yosef says, you should follow what Rabbi Bar Chana said, Rabbi Yochanan said, which is make a bracha on Sukkah every day of Sukkot and make a bracha on Lulav 1 day. We don't follow this halachically, so we got to keep going into Sukkah, see what happens next. Make faith, the Gemara says, there's a brighter that seems to contradict this whole idea. Top of Mem Vav Aleph. Ha'osa Lulav atzmo. Oh, sorry, Larry, question already? Go ahead.
When he says all 7 days, that's a shorthand for the exclusion of Shabbat.
There are 7 days of Sukkot. Oh, yeah, exactly. Correct. Sorry. Yeah, short. Yeah, that's true. Because right, there's going to be right. One of those days is going to be Shabbos, and you're not going to take the little. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, correct. Yeah, sorry. He meant every day is a new mitzvah. But for the reality that the problem of Hachana D'Rabba is that the famous decree, right? That we say we're just not going
to. He may have made a bracha on Shabbat. I don't know.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, it's very important. Okay. I mean, as far as I know, he didn't make a bracha on Shabbat. Rabbah lives later than Rabbi Yochanan, but I think they were not. I'm pretty sure they were not. The Mishnah even codifies it as Shisha and Shiva, etc. So the Mishnah seems to already know that what's ascribed to Rabbah as Hachana D'Rabba, I think was already an issue back in the day. That's my recollection. Anyway, the brighter that contradicts. Meitvei. Ha'ose lulav la'atzmo, omer, baruch shechianu v'kimanu v'gyanu l'zman hazeh. Netalo latzeit bo, omer, baruch asher kisham stabat sivanu, al tilat lulav. When you make your lulav bundle on Erev Sukkot, according to this Braita, when you finish bundling it before Yom Tov starts, you say bracha shechianu. Then when you finally pick it up the next day, you say al tilat lulav. We don't do this, but there's a Braita like that, so you have to try to understand it, right? Now, And then the part that we need here from the Breita, which is the contradictory part, even though that's like an off-ramp we may take in this context or some other context, what's the bracha of Shechianu doing here? When do you make a Shechianu? We make Shechianu, we perform mitzvahs and certain other circumstances. But apparently at the Gemara mitzvah. But apparently here, it's when you prepare the object of the mitzvah.
We only say Shachianu on the first day.
We're holding it
We're holding it.
after we make the bracha Birchot mitzvah.
Right.
And we make Shechianu. So what is this? We'll have to come back to it. V'af al pi sheberach Allah, Rishon.
בעניין סוכה, גם לא אומרים שהחיינו.
It's the next line. You're looking ahead. Yeah. You cheating?
No, where?
Baruch shekivanta. Keep going. Hold on. Line 4. V'af al pi sheberach alav yom rishon, chozer mevarech kol shiv'ah. Even though you made the bracha on the first day, on the Lulav, every single day you're going to make the bracha. And as Larry pointed out, every single day that you can make the bracha, in other words, not including Shabbat. But you make the bracha on the Lulav. Now, here we are. Baruch shekivanta Yehuda. Ha'oseh sukkah la'atzmo omer, baruch shechianu kimanu, b'chulei. V'nichnas li'yeshev ba, so you build an Erev Sukkot, you say the bracha. 5 days before Sukkot, you build your sukkah, shechianu kimanu v'yenaz manazeh. A bracha on a binyan of the sukkah. And then nichnas leishev ba omer asher kisham stav tzivanu leishev ba sukkah. V'kevin shebirach yom rishon shuv eno varech. And what does this bright to say? A sukkah, make the bracha of sitting in the sukkah one time. So in other words, this braita is actually which is of a higher stature, you could say, than Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is already an early Amora, right? Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel, all in the same family, so to speak, in the same time frame. So Rabbi Yochanan thinks, there's two different understandings of Rabbi Yochanan. But if Rav Yosef is correct, take what Rabbi Bar Chana says. Rabbi Bar Chana said, Sukkah 7 days, and Lulav, make the bracha the first day. What does this bright to say? Make the bracha 7 times on the Lulav and 1 time on the Sukkah. So this doesn't add up. It was saying Rav Yosef, I got to be correct. So the Gemara here says, Kashi Lulav Lulav, Kashi Sukkah Sukkah. There's a problem here with the Lulav and the Lulav, and there's a problem with the Sukkah and the Sukkah. I mean, something here doesn't fit. It doesn't seem to add up. So the Gemara says, okay, Bishlam Lulav Lulav Lo Kashya. Because Kan Bisman Shabbat Mikdash Kayam, Kan Bisman ain't been Mikdash Kayam. It's not really a question when it comes to the Lulav, because the Breita is talking about when there's 7 days worth of the mitzvah to Oraita of Lulav, because there's a Beit Mikdash standing. You could go there and make the bracha all 7 days. That's why it said that. But Rabbi Yochanan is already talking after the Churban, so therefore he's saying you make the bracha on Lulav 1 time. Again, according to Rabbi Bar Chana's reading. It's not what we do practically, but just using that logic. All right? Ella Sukkah Kasya. Wait a minute. Sukkah and Sukkah, there's a Kasya over there. That's a big question, right? Do you make the bracha on the Sukkah according to this Breita 1 time? It covers you the whole Sukkahs. And Rabbi Bar Chana's understand Rabbi Yochanan is you make that bracha all 7 days. That's the bottom line over here. Rabbi Bar Chana, right, was quoted in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yosef said you should follow Rabbi Bar Chana's understanding of Rabbi Yochanan, right, which is 7 days of Sukkah bracha and 1 day of Lulav bracha. But there's bright that said you make the bracha 1 time on the Sukkah and it covers you the whole Sukkot, all 7 days. So it doesn't add up. The first problem we got out of, we said Rabbi Yochanan lives at the time of the Churban. So if Rabbi Bar Chana's understanding is correct, that we only make the bracha the 1 day of Sukkot, which is the first day, that's because there's no Beit Mikdash. So everyone agrees, even in the Gvulin, even we, would make the bracha the first day, de Oraita. The other days say de Rabbanan. So he holds, no, don't make it the other days at all. And when it comes to Sukkah, he says, okay, but does Breita says it's only 1 time for the whole Yontif? Okay, so that's a question. What are we going to do with that? And the answer comes to us from the world of Tefillin. Tanoihi, says the Gemara, to get him out of the problem. That the Tanya, Tefillin, kol zman shemanichan mevarach aleihen, divrei Rebbe. As long as you, every time you put on your Tefillin, you make a bracha. V'chachamim omrim, eno mevarach el shachrit bilvad. In the old days, you used to wear Tefillin all day. But to take them off, you go to the restroom. So they go to the restroom, take off the Tefillin. To make a bracha again, the Rabbanan say, no, you made a bracha in the morning. That's all you need. Rebbe says, you make the bracha every single time. Itmar. Abaye Amar Hilchata Rebbe. The Rava Amar Hilchata Rabbanan. Abaye says the halacha follows Rebbe, and Rava says the halacha follows Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, 2 stories, little stories, but vignettes that destroy our thinking about who did what. Amar of Mary Bra de Bat Shmuel, so the grandson basically of Shmuel, it was his maternal grandfather, Rav Mari. He said, Chazina leila Rava dilo Avid Kishmaite. I saw that he didn't even follow what he himself holds. He thinks you make the bracha one time a day and that's it. No, I saw him Elam Makdim V'kai V'oil Lebeda Kisei V'nafik Umasha Yadei V'manach Tefillin Mavarich. I saw that he was wearing his tefillin. He wanted to go to the restroom. He took off his tefillin. He went out, used the bathroom, came back, washed his hands, and he put on the tefillin again, and he made a bracha. Oh, well, I was telling you. I saw it happen repeatedly, not just one time. He kept doing this. Every time he had to go to the restroom, he took off his tefillin, came back, made a bracha. V'ananami kirabi avdinan. And we also have to follow what Rabbi says. Umavarchin kol shiva. And therefore, we make the bracha all 7 days on the sukkah. It sounds like Amar of Marzutra Chazina le Rav Papi Dechol Emat Demanach Tefillin Mevarech. Right? I saw that Rav Papi the same thing. Whenever you put on the tefillin, he would make a bracha. Rabbanan the Bay Rav Ashi Kol Emat the Mishamshe Bahu Mevarche. I saw that in the for Rabba Bar Bachanan, every time that they would move the tefillin off, if it would go off kilter, so what would they do? They'd make a bracha when they fixed it. Adkan for tonight, what we're seeing inside in the Gemara. Yeah.
Question on the bracha on sukkah. Walk into the sukkah and I sit down. If I don't eat or drink, I'm not making a bracha.
Okay, wait. Good.
So
go ahead, finish. I'm going to learn 3 more lines.
The answer now. No,
I'm going to show you a Tosfot. We're getting to 7:45. I got to show you the Tosfot. It answers the whole thing.
So these can. I don't see the similarity here between tefillin. Right. Let me say it differently. I see the category of the bracha we make on the sukkah as different.
Yeah.
Because we're not making a bracha on the sukkah, except maybe at the beginning when we say Shakiyah in the filter. We make the bracha on the sukkah only in conjunction with eating. Right? Really, not with sitting. Just eating.
Well, that's why we always say when you make Havdalah, if you're not having a Suda, then you don't say later.
You're not right. Not a Suda there.
So now I'm back to the 7-day thing, which is bugging me because for 1 day, because we don't seemingly do, well, we do 1 day, I guess. We do
7 days of saying a bracha on sukkah every single time you go.
Because we do. Let's say we never ate. I guess we couldn't go 7 days without eating.
Oh, okay. It doesn't mean literally 7 days. It means all 7 days you keep saying the bracha over and over and over again when you go in the sukkah.
Right.
If you look with me at Tosfot, it's a very, very easy Tosfot. I know it's hard to say. This is like oxymoron. The bottom Tosfot of Mem Hamid Bet. Echad zeh ve'echad zeh shiva. This one and that one is 7. The lulav and the sukkah, both. That was the sheet actually that we end up adopting. That's what we do halachically. We make the bracha on the sukkah every single day, or rather every single time we eat a meal in there. And every single day we take another time. We take the lulav and etrog. We make the bracha. Look at Tosfot. Tosfot point out, "Ain sukkah v'lulav shavin the bracha." The truth is sukkah and lulav are not exactly the same thing when it comes to the bracha. Why? Lulav ain mevarach elapam achat b'yom. You only make the bracha once a day. If you keep picking up your lulav etrog the whole day to keep making the bracha. Aval sukkah kol emat nichnas la k'dei sheyocha v'yishta v'yashen afilu eser pa'amim b'yom mevarach akol achat v'achat. If when you leave the sukkah, every time you go back into it to eat, to drink, to sleep, right? Not really sleep, but you make a bracha. Really, it should be for sleep also. There's a whole shaila how you make a bracha if you're not going to fall asleep immediately. So eating, drinking is a discrete action. It's going to happen immediately to make the bracha. But in theory,
eat breakfast, stay in there the whole time, then eat lunch. You don't stay separate.
No, because you stay the whole time. Right. But even if you went out and you went back into your sukkah 10 times in the same day, you went out, you took a phone call, you had a meeting, you come back a half an hour later, and now you say, I have another snack. A half hour only went by. It's not 72 minutes, nothing. You're making another bracha. You're making another bracha of leishev sukkah if you're eating, right? It's the same thing like it is with tefillin. Why? Every single time you wear them. Behind the time of the sukkah. It's the same thing as the sukkah. Why? If it so happens you want to have a suda, you cannot eat outside of the sukkah, right? Even though you already ate in the sukkah that very day. The truth is the mitzvah tefillin is the whole day should be on your arm and on your head, on your arm. Aval lulav ein ikar mitzvah ela pam achat b'yom kida amrinim de agbei nafak bei. As we learned in the Gemara, membet, once you lift it up, you perform the mitzvah, and it's a discrete action, and it's done. What's the story with the tefillin? When a person goes into the restroom, it is usher for them to wear tefillin. Therefore, there's a built-in. The Mishnah Berurah writes this in Chaf Hey. As soon as you go into the restroom, it means you have to take off the tefillin, and therefore that's considered halachically speaking a hesach hadat. And therefore, when you come out, you have to make a new bracha on the tefillin. What about your talis? You don't wear a talis in the bathroom, but you wear a talis cotton in the bathroom. And when you take off your talis gadol, say Shabbos, something, you don't make another bracha when you come back out. Why? Because really, al pi din, it's not the pure halachic terminology, usher to wear your talis gadol in the bathroom. It shouldn't be done. We don't do it. It's not the minute. We take it off. We shouldn't do it. We do it at talis cotton and take that off. But the tefillin, davar shebekdusha, and since it's usher, it's like it's a built-in hesach hadat that's actually there at that time. The shaila comes up. What about Talmud Torah? How can you have to make another Brachot Torah in the bathroom? So there's two different answers given. I like the second answer better, which is that there's certain dinim in the bathroom as well. So it's sort of in your mind. The first answer is you're going to learn immediately when you get out, and you have that in mind. I don't really understand that answer so much. The second answer seems to me stronger. There's certain halachas in there also. So there is an aspect of Talmud, not Talmud Torah, but at least Torah. You're associated with Torah even when you're in the restroom, right? When it comes to the tefillin, the object has come off. When the object comes back on, you got to make another bracha. And through this, the Gemara here is basically solved, so to speak, for how it is that according to what we do, practically, we do make a bracha 7 days in Sukka. We do make a bracha 7 days on Lulav. And that's all we have time for tonight. We'll pick this up next week. We will talk about Hanukkah. We will maybe go into the sugya of Shechianu. There's a lot to say, but I have a meeting that I have to get to with a chassan, so I got to go. That's it.